So today, March 19, 2026, yesterday we were discussing about Upadana Khanda, the five aggregates of clinging. And these five aggregates of clinging is the mundane mind and matter, nama and rupa, arising in the six sense doors: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind door. Every moment, every second, there are these five aggregates occurring in these six sense doors. And if we do not know them when they occur, when they occur in the six sense doors, then we will cling to those five aggregates. Therefore, they are called five aggregates of clinging. There is a possibility, if we do not know, do not note, and do not know the nature of this mind and matter, we will cling to these mental and physical phenomena. Therefore, we have to know these mental and physical phenomena by practicing this Satipatthana meditation, by the way of Satipatthana, being mindful at every arising. So there is a motto that note and know at every arising, always guard the mind with vigilant mindfulness. Note and know at every arising, always guard this mind with vigilant mindfulness. That is the essence of Satipatthana. In Satipatthana practice, we are trying to develop a firm mindfulness, a strong mindfulness, in order to know the very true natures of these five aggregates of clinging, the mundane physical and mental phenomena. So here, to know the very true natures of this mind and matter occurring in the six sense doors, we need to observe, we need to look at the presently arising mind and matter. Then only we will be able to see the very true natures through our own direct knowledge. So in the practice, we have to be very careful, very vigilant, so that we will be able to see the presently occurring objects. We cannot see the mind and matter directly if that mind and matter has not arisen yet. And we also won't be able to see that mind and matter if it is already arisen. So to know the very true natures occurring at that very moment, we have to focus on the presently arising objects. We can see the present objects through our direct knowledge. Therefore, we should keep our mind very awake and very alert so that we will be able to catch that present object. And the knowledge we gain from observing the present object will be our direct knowledge. Paccakkhanyana, it is direct knowledge, not the inferential knowledge, anumana jnana. We will see directly what is that mind and matter, what kind of nature do have this mind and matter. So the example is given that if we want to know about the lightning in the sky, we have to look in the sky at the moment the lightning occurs, not before the lightning occurs or not after the lightning occurred. At the very moment of lightning occurring in the sky, we have to look at that very moment. So we have to pay attention. We should be focusing in the sky if we really want to know the nature of lightning. So what we come to know when we pay attention in that lightning, when we look the lightning at the moment it occurs, we come to know the characteristics of lightning, how the lightning takes place, how was it, we come to know. We see the very brilliant light. If we look at the moment of its occurring, we come to know, oh, there was a very brilliant light. And we also come to know that as the lightning flashes, the darkness disappears. So this lightning makes the disappearance of darkness, and that is the function of lightning. We come to know that function of lightning. As soon as the lightning occurs, the darkness disappears. And also we come to know about the shape or the appearance of lightning. That lightning, whether it is very straight or round or curve or long or short, or the light was very dim or very bright, we come to know about the shape and the appearance of lightning. That is the manifestation of lightning. So in order to know the characteristics or function or manifestation of this lightning, we have to look in the sky at the moment the lightning occurs. So too, in order to know the characteristics, the functions, the manifestations of these, these mind and matter, we have to look at the time of their occurrence. Before their occurrence, we won't be able to see them. And after their occurrence too, we won't be able to see the nature of this mind and matter. So we have to look on the objects at the moment they arise. Only then we will be able to see what is that matter, what is that mind, what kind of nature, what kind of characteristic, function, or manifestation do this mind and matter have. We come to know that. So therefore, um, according to this Satipatthana method, we should develop this mindfulness on the objects, those objects occurring in the six sense doors at the moment of their occurrence, at the very moment they arise, not before their occurrence or not after their occurrence. And so, to know the characteristic, function, and manifestation, we must pay attention to those objects at the moment arising. Means we need to send our mind to those objects. For example, the rising movement. The rising movement occurs in the abdomen. So we need to pay attention in the abdomen, not other places, not other spots. Because usually rising and falling movement appears in the abdomen. So we need to focus in the abdomen. And what we come to see when we pay attention to this rising movement, sometimes we feel that there is stiffness and tension. This stiffness and tension, that is the characteristic of air element. Sometimes we may notice that there is the movement moving from one place to another place. The movement going on from one place to another place. That is the function of air element. And sometimes we might feel that there is a kind of pushing force. While noting rising movement, sometimes we feel that there is a pushing force from behind, the pushing outwards. That is the manifestation of air element. In noting falling movement, sometimes we might experience that there is a pushing force inside. Sometimes we might experience the pulling, or there is a pulling force, one after another, while noting rising and falling. That is also the manifestation of air element. So when we focus in the abdomen, note the rising movement as soon as it arises. We come to know these natures of air element. It is not like that we will know all the natures at one time. Sometimes we might feel tension and stiffness or tightness. Sometimes we might feel there is a movement moving from one place to another place. Sometimes we might feel there is a pulling force or pushing force, the different natures we will come to know. So if we want to know, if we want to see those natures, then we have to focus in the abdomen and we have to note at the moment of arising of rising movement in the abdomen. Then we will not cling to that rising movement. If we are not observing at the moment of its occurrence with mindfulness, then sometimes when we feel there is tightness, stiffness building in the abdomen, we may dislike it because it is not comfortable, and sometimes dissatisfaction may arise, dosa may arise, anger may arise. And sometimes in noting in when we feel the abdomen is very light, very comfortable, then we may be very happy and we like it and we might attach to it. But if we are mindful, if we are mindfully noting that rising movement, because we are very mindful, sati is present there, then there will not be liking or disliking. We don't feel angry, though it is very tight, tense, discomfort, we don't feel angry. We don't feel happy because it is so light, so comfortable. There will be just a knowledge, knowing the very true nature. Therefore, according to Satipatthana practice, we should have a good mindfulness, observing the objects, and we should observe at the presently arising objects. Not only in rising movement, in falling movement, in sitting, touching, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, bending, stretching, lifting, moving, placing, the every bodily actions, whenever those bodily actions arise, we have to look on them at the moment of arising. Then we come to know their characteristics, functions, and manifestations. In thinking, in our mind, sometimes there are many thoughts, many imaginations occurring one after another. The mind can take different objects one after another. Though we are sitting inside this Dhamma hall, our mind can take the objects that are very far The mind think about the past objects. The mind plans about the future. So the mind can take many objects. If we are mindful when there is thinking or imagining or planning, we come to know the nature of mind. Mind, chitta in Pali. Chitta, mind, has a characteristic of knowing the objects. Here, knowing does not mean knowing with the knowledge or wisdom. Knowing is just the awareness of the objects. The mind aware. The mind is aware of the object. So that is the characteristic of mind, chitta. So when we are thinking or imagining something, if we are mindful, sometimes we experience that the mind, it inclines towards the object. It runs towards the object. Which direction the object is there, the mind just runs on in that direction. So the mind takes the objects near and far. So we experience the inclination of mind. The mind is moving towards the objects, running towards the object. Because the mind will not arise without object. The mind always takes object. If there is no object, there will not arise this mind. So whenever, whatever the object is there, the mind takes it. In seeing process, whenever the some visible form is there, the mind takes that visible form. So mind runs towards that visible form. If there is sound, the mind goes to that sound. It takes that sound. So in thinking or imagining, if we are very mindful, we will experience that, oh, this mind runs, goes to that thinking object, the imagining object. And that is the nature of, that is the characteristic of mind. And sometimes we also feel that, we also experience that while taking that object, sometimes this mind is followed by lobha. If the object is desirable, then the lobha comes. Lobha follows the mind. If the object is undesirable, the dosa, anger follows that mind. And sometimes conceit, mana follows that mind. Sometimes jealousy, and if the object is something pleasurable object, but that is not the sensual object, like something learning the Dhamma, listening the Dhamma talks. So at that time, sometimes satta, faith, this mental factor follows the mind. So every time when mind occurs, the mental factors follows it. But when we say the mental factors follow the mind, it doesn't mean that the mind and the mental factors, they arise in different time. Actually, mind and mental factors, they arise at the same time. But it seems that is a mind is leading in that thinking process or seeing process. And we come to understand that that is the function of mind. And sometimes we experience that one mind and the next mind are connected, means the minds the mind occurring one after another. There is the mind noting rising and falling movement, and there is the mind again arises, noting the thinking mind arises, and that there is a noting mind, noting that thinking mind. Again, there might be another mind arising, taking different objects. So the mind occurs one after another. There is not a time that the mind does not occur. Every second, every moment, there is the mind occurring. Even when we are sleeping at the night time, at that time also there is the mind occurring one after another. So we come to know that the mind occurs one after another. Not just one single mind is knowing everything, not just one single mind taking all the objects. The one mind takes one object at a time. The mind does not take two, three, four objects at a time, one object at a time, and we come to understand this. And this is the manifestation of mind. So if we pay attention at the moment the thinking or imagining takes place, we come to know the nature of this mind, the very true nature of this mind. And these are the very true natures. And we come to understand them as they truly are. So, in order to be able to know these true natures of mind and matter, we should observe them when they occur. And in observing those mind and matter, and to know their true natures, what we need at the beginning of the practice is we need to have some components. We need to have some help. We need to have some um, mental factors in order to see those natures. We won't be able to see those natures just by one observation or two observation. We have to observe them repeatedly. We cannot see them just by one noting or two noting. We have to note them repeatedly again and again. Therefore, in Satipatthana Sutta, Kayanupassana, when Kaya arises, observe it repeatedly as Kaya. So, Anupassana. Pasana is observing or noting. Anu is repeatedly. So, we should make the repeated observation in order to know the very true natures of mind and matter occurring in that present moment. And for that repeated observation, there should be the some powers. We need some powers. There are three components shown in the Satipatthana Sutta: Atapi, Sampajano, Satima. Three components: Atapi, Sampajana, and Satima. Means first we should have Atapa Virya, ardent effort. The ardent effort is the very important fact in observing the presently arising objects. If there is no virya, if virya is effort is not present, we will not be able to note and observe the objects. So virya, atapa, the ardent propulsion of the mind. Because of the virya, the noting mind reaches to the object. If we are noting rising movement, if we apply this ardent effort, then the mind goes to the object. If we do not apply effort, then the mind will not go to the object. And this effort is needed all the time, but this effort should not be excessive effort. If the effort is too much, excessive, then the noting mind will overshoot the object. And again, if the effort is very weak, if the effort is very little, then the noting mind will not go to the object. So effort is necessary all the time, but it should not be the excessive effort or weak effort. We need to have a certain amount of effort, the accurate effort, so that the noting mind will reach the object of observation. So when we apply that effort, the noting mind becomes active and alert. If we do not apply effort, the mind becomes lazy. The other day we were discussing about tina metta, laziness. So if there is no effort, if we do not apply effort, then the mind becomes lazy and we won't be able to note the object. So the effort is very important to know the nature of the objects, to dispel this laziness. But to have an accurate effort, we need to aim the object. We need the help of jhana. The jhana is defined here as upanijjhana in Pali. So three words here, upa, ni, and jhana. And upa means to stick, to stick to the object. Ni means firmly, steadfastly. Jhana means observe. So the meaning of jhana is observe steadfastly, to stick the mindfulness on the object. That is simply aiming or focusing. We need to aim and focus the object. Though in Satipatthana Sutta, only atapa is mentioned, but to have a right atapa, right effort, we need to have the help of jhana. Jhana aiming or focusing. That aiming and focusing, aiming the mind firmly or steadfastly on the object of observation. And that is the nature of mental factor vitakka. So vitakka is the mental factor simply translated as aiming or focusing. That is the application of mind onto the object. The vitakka applies the mind onto the object directly. So we need to have this mental factor. We need to have the help of this mental factor in order to see the very true natures occurring at that very moment. This vitakka initial application, it directs the mind to the object, so the mind will fall on the object directly. It helps to have the accurate amount of virya in the practice. And because there is aiming or focusing, our noting mind will become very fresh. If there is no aiming and focusing, then this noting mind sometimes becomes very sluggish, very slow, very slack. It becomes like a frozen butter. We cannot move the mind. But this initial application, vitakka, helps the mind to keep it fresh and active. So this is the mental factor that send the mind to the object directly, and because with the help of initial application, the mind falls on the objects. It will not overshoot the objects, or the mind will not slips off the object. So these two mental factors, here atapa, virya, and the initial application vitakka, they are very helpful, especially at the beginning of the practice. Every time when we note the objects, if we have these two mental factors, then we will be able to develop mindfulness, because initial application aims the target, that is the object of observation, and ardent effort, it propels the mind to the object. So sati, mindfulness, sticks on the object. There arises mindfulness, and that is satima. Atapi is a person who has that propelling effort. Satima is a person who has mindfulness. So in order to see the very true natures of these mental and physical phenomena occurring every moment within us, we should have these components First, the ardent effort, and then initial application or focusing or aiming. Then we will have a sustained mindfulness. So when there is the sustained mindfulness, then the noting mind falls on the object, there will be the collectedness of mind. That means the samadhi will arise. Every time when there is mindfulness, samadhi follows it. There will be concentration. The mind stays on that object observed. So when there is mindfulness and concentration, then knowledge will arise. In the word satima, it mentions only about mindfulness, but the commentators explain that when we talk about mindfulness, we should consider concentration also when we say satima. So both mindfulness and concentration develop when there is ardent effort and the aiming of the object. And then later we come to know the true nature of the object we observe. And that knowledge is sampajana. Atapi sampajana. Sampajana is the knowledge. So what is the meaning of sampajana here is sampajana. There are three words, sang, pa, and jana. Sampajana means one who knows clearly, distinctly by himself. That is the person, sampajana. For the knowledge, the Pali word used is sampajanya. So sang means correctly, correctly and fully and personally. Pa means distinctly and specially. And janya means knowing, understanding. So when the noting mind falls directly on the object of observation, we come to know the nature of that object. And we come to know this object very clearly, very clearly, very distinctly. We come to know the characteristics, function, or manifestation of that object very distinctly, very clearly. And we know this very correctly because this is our direct knowledge, not inferential knowledge. We are not imagining about the object. We are not thinking about the object. And also this knowledge we gain by applying effort and aiming. We are not analyzing at that time. We are not analyzing. We are just observing at the moment it occurs. Therefore, we come to know that knowledge very directly and also correctly. We come to know exactly as it is, yatha bhuta, exactly as it is. And this knowledge we gain through our own experience. This knowledge is not something we learned by reading books or by listening Dhamma talks. Because we are practicing, we are applying effort and aiming, so we come to know this natures, and this is our own knowledge, own direct knowledge. So that is sampajanya, knowing or understanding correctly, directly, personally, knowing distinctly. There are two objects in the rising, in the abdomen, rising and falling. The rising, the falling movement. There are two different movements. Rising movement is not falling movement. Falling movement is not rising movement. They are two different objects, and we come to know distinctly. Before, we will not be able to know that way. We come to know that way because we are observing it repeatedly, anupassana, again and again. Therefore, the repeated observation is very important. That is why satatsa kiriya, we have to note the objects one after another constantly. There shouldn't be any gap between the notings. It should be very continuous, whether we are doing sitting meditation or walking meditation or daily activities, the noting of those mental and physical phenomena or the aggregates of clinging occurring at that very moment should be very continuous. Then only we will have a clear comprehension. We will be able to see the natures very clearly as it is, in correct way. And when we see the very true natures exactly as it is, then there will not be clinging to those mind and matter appearing at that very moment. Therefore, the upadana khanda, the aggregates of clinging, every moment, every second, we can find those aggregates of clinging. And in Satipatthana practice, we have to observe those aggregates of clinging at the moment of their occurrence. And then only we come to know the very true natures. And in observation of these uh, aggregates of clinging, we need to apply ardent effort. We need to focus. We need to aim the object so that the noting mind will go to the object, and the mindfulness, concentration, and knowledge will develop. So let's try our best to see, to note the presently occurring objects, mind and matter.